There's a big change coming to Mexico, one that has a lot of people asking whether it's about progress or control.
Mexico is rolling out a new biometric national ID, one that collects your fingerprints, iris scan, and facial photo, and by 2026, it's expected to become mandatory for most citizens and residents.
For some, it's a step toward modernization and efficiency. For others, it raises serious questions about privacy and freedom, especially if you're a foreigner planning to live here long term.
So in this video, we're unpacking what this new biometric CURP really is, how it affects foreigners, and whether it's a tool for convenience or a system of control.
And if you're thinking about moving to Mexico, stay till the end. We'll also share what you can do to prepare and how these changes might shape daily life in the next few years. To understand why this new ID is such a big deal, we need to start with what the CURP actually is.
The CURP has been around for years. It's basically Mexico's version of a national ID number. It shouldn't be confused with the RFC though. That's Mexico's tax ID, similar to the Social Security number in the United States. We'll cover that in another video.
The CURP is something every citizen and legal resident already has. But what's changing now is that this ID is going biometric. That means your fingerprints, facial photo, iris scan, and digital signature will all be stored together in one centralized database connected to your CURP number.
We recently renewed our driver's license, and they're already doing some of this. They even had us read a sentence out loud and recorded our voices. The official goal is to make identification faster, reduce fraud, and simplify access to public services.
The rollout began in October of 2025, and the plan is to make the biometric CURP the official national ID by February 2026. At this point, it'll be required for most formal transactions in Mexico, from banking to healthcare, property purchases, and discounted entry fees to tourist attractions for Mexican residents.
On paper, it sounds like progress. A modern, efficient system that could finally replace all those endless photocopies and notarized forms we've all dealt with in Mexico.
But on the other hand, centralizing that much biometric data raises an obvious question. Who controls it and how will it be used? That's the tension people are feeling, convenience versus control.
Whether you see this as progress or overreach probably depends on your experience with government systems and how much you trust them to protect your data.
And that brings us to the question most of you care about. Does this include foreigners too? So before we dive into how this might affect you, let's take a quick second to remind you about something that'll really help if you're planning your move.
We've put together a free Mexico visa guide that explains the different residency options, temporary, permanent, and everything in between, along with the latest financial requirements and processing fees.
It's a great way to figure out what kind of visa you might qualify before you start the process.
All you have to do is comment Mexican visa down below and we'll send it right to you.
Alright, now that you've got that free resource handy, let's look at whether this new biometric ID applies to foreigners living in Mexico.
The short answer is yes, it affects both. The new biometric CURP covers citizens and foreign residents with legal status.
So if you're applying for a temporary or permanent residency, you'll automatically be assigned a CURP, and eventually that'll become a biometric CURP. And depending on when you're watching this video, for some of you, this may already be happening.
For example, when you go through immigration or renew your residency card, your data already feeds into a national database. The biometric CURP just takes that one step further by linking all those records together.
It's meant to make things more efficient, like verifying your identity instantly instead of juggling copies of your passport, visa, and a proof of address.
But it also means your personal information, including fingerprints, photo, iris scans, will be stored alongside that of Mexican citizens in one centralized system.
Now, if you're only visiting Mexico on a tourist permit, this doesn't apply to you, at least not for now. Tourists aren't being asked to register biometrics beyond the normal immigration stamp.
So short-term travelers or snowbirds who come and go on a tourist visa won't notice any difference. But once you decide to live here, open a bank account, or buy a property, that's when the biometric CURP will start to matter.
Some people see this as freedom through convenience. Fewer documents, faster service, less bureaucracy.
Others worry it's a loss of freedom, another layer of control that tracks every official move you make.
Whichever side you fall on, the key takeaway is this. If you plan to live in Mexico legally, this new biometric ID will be part of your everyday life.
And like most things in Mexico, the rollout will likely happen in stages, so enforcement could vary from one state or office to another.
Coming up next, we'll look at what this means in real life for banking and healthcare to real estate and daily transactions, and what you can do to prepare.
But first, if you've been seriously thinking about moving to Mexico, we've got something special coming up in March. Take a look.
If you've ever dreamed about moving to Mexico, this is for you. Figuring it all out on your own can feel overwhelming. Visas, neighborhoods, healthcare, rentals, real estate, the list goes on. Which is exactly why we're hosting our very first Move to Mexico Discovery Week in San Miguel de Allende to give you clarity and answers you need all in 1 week.
It's happening March 2nd through March 10th, 2026, and we only have 10 rooms available. Once they're gone, that's it.
You'll settle in for 7 nights at our boutique B&B Antigua Capilla. We will explore San Miguel, Guanajuato, and Querétaro at a pace that lets you really see what life here feels like.
You'll sit down with the immigration lawyer we trust, the health insurance broker we recommend, the real estate and rental agents who know the local market inside and out.
So scan the QR code or click the link in the description to reserve your place today. Spaces are limited, and at the time of this recording, we only have a few spots left. It's exciting, huh? If we're already sold out by the time you watch this, you can join the waiting list to be among the first to know about a future Discovery Week.
All right, now that you've seen a little of what we've got planned for Discovery Week, let's get back to what this new biometric ID actually looks like in real life.
Once the biometric CURP becomes the standard, it'll show up in more and more everyday situations, not just when you apply for residency or renew your visa.
Think about things like opening up a bank account, registering for health insurance, or signing a lease or property contract. Anything that requires official identification.
In theory, the goal is to simplify all of that. Fewer documents, faster service, and one single ID that works across government and private systems.
But in practice, it also means those same systems will be cross-referencing your personal information every time you use that ID. For some people, that's reassuring. For others, it's unsettling.
Let's say you're applying for Mexican health insurance or you're buying a car. The idea is that your biometric CURP will automatically confirm your identity without all the paper copies we're used to.
And that's where the question of freedom or control really shows up. Are these improvements making life easier, or are they just pulling everyone deeper into a monitored system?
Either way, if you plan to live here long term, this is something that you'll have to interact with. So it's better to understand it now rather than be surprised later.
And don't forget, just because something is mandatory doesn't mean it's instant. Rollouts in Mexico do take time. They're saying that it'll be mandatory by February of 2026. The reality is it might be months or even years before smaller towns fully adopt this system.
For most foreigners, this will probably show up first when you apply or renew your residency, open a Mexican bank account, or buy property. The big transactions that involve ID verification.
Exactly. So if you're still in the planning stages, make sure your residency paperwork is organized now. That'll make it a lot easier when biometric registration eventually becomes the standard.
And for those of you already living in Mexico, don't panic. You don't have to run out and get your biometric CURP today. The system is still being rolled out in phases, and it'll likely take time before every state is enforcing it.
What matters most is staying informed, because changes like this often happen quietly until one day you're told you need the new ID for something important.
At this point, you might be wondering, why is Mexico making this move toward a biometric ID system in the first place?
The government says it's part of a broader plan to modernize services, cut down on corruption, and make identification more secure and efficient.
One of the official justifications is actually tied to Mexico's missing persons crisis. Authorities say that linking everyone's biometric data, fingerprints, iris scans, and photos could help identify victims and speed up investigations.
They also argue it'll reduce fraud, eliminate fake IDs, and make public services easier to access, from healthcare to banking. On paper, that sounds like progress.
But critics point out that while the goals sound noble, centralizing biometric data also gives the government unprecedented control, not just for identification, but potentially for surveillance or political oversight.
And that's where the tension comes in. Is this really about protecting people and reducing corruption? Or is it about expanding state power through data?
And with most things, it's probably a bit of both. Modernization and efficiency on one side and control on the other. The key is understanding what it means for you as a foreigner living here. So after looking at how this new ID works and why it's being introduced, the bigger question remains: what does it mean for freedom and privacy?
For many people, a unified digital ID sounds like progress. It's efficient, harder to fake, and it could make life simpler for millions who currently struggle with paperwork or access to services.
And that's the optimistic side. A Mexico that's more connected, more organized, and where your ID actually works wherever you go.
But the flip side is hard to ignore. Centralizing biometric data gives whoever controls it immense power. Power to track, restrict, or even misuse information if safeguards fail.
Privacy experts are already warning that without strong regulation, digital IDs can shift from tools of convenience to tools of control.
And for foreigners, this tension is especially real. We often move here seeking more freedom, simplicity, or less bureaucracy.
So when a new system like this appears, it's normal to ask, is this the same red tape we left behind? Or is it a step forward to something better?
The truth is, it's both. Mexico is modernizing, but modernization always comes with trade-offs.
The best thing that we can do is stay informed, adapt, and then make sure that we're using these systems on our terms, not blindly accepting them.
And we'd love to hear what you think.
Do you see this new biometric ID as a step toward freedom or control? Comment below. So what can we actually do to prepare for this new biometric ID system, especially if you're planning to move to Mexico or already living here?
First, make sure your residency paperwork is in order. If you're still applying, double check that your CURP number appears correctly on all your documents. Don't assume. You'll need that once the biometric version rolls out.
Second, organize your digital records. Scan your passport, residency card, and key paperwork so that you have backups if anything ever needs to be re-verified.
Third, stay informed. Check government updates or local foreign resident groups. New ID procedures are often announced quietly before they're enforced.
And finally, protect your privacy. Use strong passwords, enable two-factor authentication for banking and government portals, and be careful who you share your ID photos with.
If you'd like personal guidance on your move, whether it's understanding visa options, setting up banking or healthcare, or choosing the right neighborhoods, that's exactly what we cover on our one-on-one consultation.
We'll help you map out a realistic plan for your relocation and avoid the costly mistakes that we see people make all the time.
You can book a session using the link in our description or by scanning the QR code on your screen.
And if you prefer to learn in person, join us for our Move to Mexico Discovery Week this March.
Spots are limited, so click the link in the description or scan the QR code to learn more and reserve your place.
And if you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe. We post new content every week about life in Mexico, visas, and relocation.
And have you heard about the new digital peso that's coming? Watch the video on the screen next to learn more about it.
See you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.